welcome back to my studio. This is Emma. A very warm welcome to you on another spring day here in the UK. It's a little bit rainy today, so I'm quite glad to be indoors. It's that May time, isn't it? May is this funny month where you don't quite know what the weather's going to do. We could still easily have snow and frost and ice, but at the moment it's just nice and everything is so lush. This is what I'm loving. Because it's rained, everything's gone very lush and very green, which is absolutely beautiful. It's a very refreshing sight, I think, to your eyes after the long winter sort of barrenness and the stark qualities of the hedgerows and the trees. It's now absolutely lush and green, and it's the vibrancy, isn't it, of the new green leaves in spring. They're just fantastic. There's no other time quite like it. So today I'm thinking about what I'm going to be doing obviously with you next, and I was also thinking about, I heard a chap talking on YouTube, as you do, and he was talking about creative mess and how it's very important that you allow yourself to make a mess. Isn't it funny? You know, you're told to tidy up all the time. You're told to, you know, keep your desk orderly, aren't you, at work and things like that. And you should really work in this very, I can't think what the word is, organised sort of fashion. But actually, true creativity, I think, and I'm sure this is what he was saying with you, it kind of comes out of chaos. So when chaotic things happen, even if it's like a world event, often something amazingly creative will come out of that. And yes, it can be a devastating thing in your life or in other people's lives, what appears to be absolutely terrible, but out of it can come this incredible coming together of people, new ways of doing things, new creativity. And I think it's the same here in my studio on a very small scale. I find that, and I'm sure you're exactly the same, you've had all your stuff out, all your creative stuff out, and you suddenly get to the point where you actually have to tidy it up, and that sort of refreshes you for a new start. A bit like springtime, I suppose. You know, springtime is this fresh start after the chaos and the falling apart of autumn and winter. If you're in a country where you have these sorts of seasons, and out of that comes this springtime when it's a fresh start and we can get creating and new things can come, and it's very exciting. I think about children a lot when I'm doing my art, because I think about how they just have no worries about making a mess, you know, whether it's using when I think back to when my friends and I had our children together and they got creating around the kitchen table. They used to do this thing we call gluing and sticking, and it just basically meant scattering glitter all over the place and little bits of things, and we got peg dolls out and fabrics, of course, there were fabrics, and they got to make all sorts of things out of their heads, out of their imagination. They created things. I gave them the raw materials, or a friend gave them stuff to do. And by the end of the session, there would just be stuff everywhere, and the kitchen table would be covered in stuff, and the kitchen floor would be covered in glitter, which I always rather liked. I always thought it was rather like sprinkling fairy dust over everything. So yes, so out of that sort of chaos and that creative mess comes the actual whatever it is you're making, whether it's something tangible or whether it's an idea, or, you know, something you make with other people. So I think it's really interesting. So that's my musings for this morning, my thoughts for the day. I've got my lovely little baskets of fabric ready in these absolutely gorgeous colours, aren't they just lovely? And I'm going to get my embellishing machine out next, and we're going to just see what happens. So please come and join me at my embellishing table, and we will get on and see what's going to come out of this kind of creative, it's not a mess, but it's a creative fresh start. So come on, let's get going. Okay, so this is my baby lock embellisher. For those of you who are not familiar with this as a machine, it's a felting machine or an embellishing machine, and it has some very sharp needles which have got barbs on, which are going to felt some fabrics together for me. Now, I'm not advertising this, it's just I'm showing you what I've got, because a lot of people ask me what kind I have got. My machine has got 12 needles and I find it to be absolutely wonderful. So this is my cotton curtain interlining that I showed you last time. This is going to be the base of my fabric piece. I'm quite excited to get going, get some colour on it. So I'm just going to start with some fabric, and I'll show you how the machine works. Get a piece of green. Let's pop that underneath there. So it's called a needle punching machine really as well, because what it does is these 12 needles inside here literally punch that top fabric. If I just show you the back, I know you can see, you can kind of see little bits of green are being punched through. So it's meshing it, it's meshing the two fabrics together. And it's really a fantastic machine. You get them with different numbers of needles. Some of them have 5, I think some of them have 7. But I have to say, because I use mine an awful lot and I'm doing quite big pieces, I find the 12 needles is really brilliant. It works very well for me. And so let's get another piece of green on there. Now you can see how it scrunches up that fabric. You can see it's made a lovely textured surface to it. So if you don't want your fabrics to be ruckled up like that, simply you could be cutting these pieces out and maybe just stitching on them. I don't know, I've never tried that. It's a whole possibility there that's awaiting somebody to have a go at just using these pieces as I'm using them, but not embellishing them down and just stitching and see what happens. And what I love about the machine is how it blends colours, so you can layer fabrics up and it'll blend colours for you. And it sort of softens the edges, so these pieces, you know, they've obviously got a cut edge, but embellishing them will soften that down for me. And it's a slow process and I like that. So I'll just keep doing this and I'll update you as I make progress with it. Okay, so I'm just going to pick out a bit of pink now, I think, to add on. And we're just going to perhaps pop that in there like that. You can see what a wowie contrast that is, and especially now the sun's come out a bit, it's making this green look quite sheeny and shiny, making very light reflective. And again, you can see how that's scrunching up the fabric there. So here's another piece of the pink going on. Look at that. I mean, what a contrast of colour. It's awesome. And what you need to do is make sure that your edges overlap with each other so you don't get any gaps. I mean, if you do get a gap, it's not the end of the world because you can just stick another piece of fabric on top. I've got a feeling there might be a slight gap there. And the thing is, some fabrics shrink more than others, so you just have to have a go and tailor what you're doing according to how much the fabric actually shrinks. And the beautiful thing is you can take off, if you don't like it, I always show this because it amuses me, look at that, you can take that off and just put it somewhere else or put another piece on instead. The thing to also be aware of is how much embellishing you're actually doing, because some of the fabrics will kind of get quite distressed. They get quite upset if you embellish them. They kind of just get very shredded, which can be a nice thing. It can be a nice look if that's what you want, but just be aware so you don't over embellish. I'm really doing this just to get everything held in place and to mix up the colours, and it saves me from pinning everything down, and of course it's creating some texture as well, which I absolutely love. So as I say, it's quite a slow process. You can't rush this bit, and again, that's all part of my art making. I couldn't make my mind whether I was going to say making or work there, so it doesn't really matter which. Oops. Just pull that up there a little bit. Yeah, nothing I do these days is done in a hurry. I can honestly say that. Somebody at the supermarket the other day, the nice lady, when I was at the checkout, she said, oh, have you got a busy day ahead of you? And I went, do you know, I don't really do busy. I kind of do, you know, peaceful and tranquil, and yes, I've got things to do. And she said, yes, I so agree. It's about, just enjoying every bit of it, isn't it? She said. I said, yes, because I think once you start thinking you're busy and you've got this 101 things on your to-do list, you're sunk really, because then you just spend all your day being stressed. Whereas if you go, well, I'm going to do this one thing, top of my list, I'm going to do this one thing. And when that's done, I might go down and do the next thing. I suppose it's a bit like I'm piecing this together, really. This is how I piece my day together. And by the end of the day, it kind of looks like I've done a few things, but at the start of it, I just don't know what I'm going to be doing exactly. And I just piece it together a little bit at a time. So you see there's a little bit there, there's a little bit of a gap there, which I can just put another little piece over. So I'll carry on, and as I say, I'll update you as I go with this, because it's a slow process. Okay, so you can see we've got a big blob of green and a big blob of pink, looking quite nice. And the next colour I'm being invited to pop onto here, which I'm going to show you because it's going to make your eyes go, whoa, that blue with that green and that pink, are you mad? And I probably am, but I'm going to go for it. Hey. The other reason I take it quite slowly is, especially as you're starting to build layers up, the machine can find it a bit hard to push some of the fabrics through. And each fabric is different, so chiffons and organzas and things like that go in quite quickly and easily. But things with a little bit more to them, the machine goes, oh, I'm not sure about this. So always listen to your machine. If it starts to struggle, stop, go slower, and it may be that piece of fabric just isn't right for the machine. So please do listen to your machines, because you don't want to be breaking needles. It's not a great thing to go around breaking needles. So my goodness, look at that. Wow, unexpected item in the bagging area, that one is. What's going to be next? Let's just get my basket. Let's just have a little look. See, another bit of blue, or a bit of that. Now I'm just wondering whether this is actually going to be something I put on top of something else. You can see this is quite see-through, and I'm just wondering I'm wondering whether it's going to be something I'm going to use as like a top dressing, if you like, and that we'll put down the base colours and then we'll add other things on top, because I think even if I embellish that, it's not going to scrunch up enough, and it's just going to show this background colour through, which I don't think we want really. Should we just have a little go over here? Let's just pop it over here and have a little look, see what it does. That's not too bad, but you can see, I think, that it's pushing the background colours just coming through. So I think we won't be putting that on just yet. So perhaps a bit more blue would be the answer for the question is, what is next? A bit more blue. There we go. Okay, so I have added some yellow down here now, which again is a huge contrast with the pink, and then we've got the dark blue over here and the wacky green just there, and I am totally bewildered as to what it's going to turn into, but I am persevering and I'm just going along with it, and I'm just playing and seeing what will come out. Now that's got a much softer sound than the other fabrics when I'm embellishing it down, because it's quite a soft organza-y sort of chiffon-y fabric, so that's much easier to work with in some respects. Put that bit there maybe. How about like that? Like that. Or I'm just twiddling around and seeing what it looks like. Slow process, as I say, because I keep changing my mind. It's funny how you just know, don't you, when you put something in place, you just go, yep, that's the right place for it. Something inside you just goes ding. I don't know if any of you know the work of Louise Hay, who was a fantastic author on sort of self-help books and spiritual stuff. Anyway, years ago, and she used to talk about her inner ding. I suppose it's the same as intuition. She just used to say, I know, because I have this inner ding inside me that just goes, yep, that's the one, that's the path to follow. That's kind of what I'm doing here. Now I've got a little bit of pink leaking through there. I'm not sure if I like that or not. And I've got a little bit of a gap there to make good. but I'm really enjoying this. As I say, you know, I might have 101 things still to do up at the house or whatever, things that I've got to deal with, appointments I need to make, or stuff that I do actually need to plan. And I do get overwhelmed, believe me, I do, as everybody does, when you suddenly, if you start listing all the things you've got to do, I think that's when I fall into a hole. I start looking ahead and thinking, oh, I've got this, this and this and this, instead of just going, well, right now I'm putting this piece of yellow on this piece of yellow, and that's all I'm doing. Okay, so I just thought I'd show you where I've got to so far with the embellishing. I'm doing my edges. I'm trying to make sure that the fabric goes right over the edge so that I'll be able to turn it in at some point. And you can look, you can see the back. Let's just have a little look at that. You can see all these lovely colours coming through on the back, which shows that the machine's doing her job. It's pushing the fabric through, which is what you want, holding it all in place, which is fantastic. And I just think it's fascinating. I'm literally putting one piece on at a time, no idea where it's going to end up. And I just feel like it's kind of a metaphor for my life at the moment. I've no idea quite where my life is going, and I'm sure many of us are in that place at this time. There's so many things happening and we don't have any control over a lot of it. But I'm just literally just doing one piece at a time and seeing what picture's going to emerge. And I think perhaps that's like life. And I look back at all the things I've done in my life. If I'd known everything I was going to do to start with, it wouldn't have been half the adventure. I've done all sorts of different things. So it's a bit like this. I think this is the adventure. I'm putting one piece in and I'm just trusting that I'm going roughly the right direction, because this could end up as completely terrible, or it could end up as completely knock your socks off. Only time will tell. Only time will tell. So I'm going to get some more fabrics on. I need to cut some more up. I've kind of used up what I've got, and we'll see where it's taking us.